Hey guys, today we step into the place where your life actually begins. Not at some grand future milestone. Not when your finances finally make sense. Not when you get a new job or relationship. But right now, the very second your eyes open in the morning. Picture it. Your alarm buzzes. The room is dim. Your mind is foggy. And you have a decision to make. You can either slide back into old patterns, letting another day slip away, or you can rise with intention, choosing to treat this morning as the opening scene of the story you're rewriting. And let's be honest, most people don't rise with purpose. They hit snooze, check messages, wander into the day without a plan, and hope things just fall into place. That's why the days blur together, and suddenly, weeks are gone. Here's your reality check. Your mornings decide more about your life than any motivational talk or once-in-a-year breakthrough moment ever will. When you wake up with purpose, you aren't just starting a day, you're declaring what kind of person you are. Purpose sharpens your mind, directs your energy, and sets the standard for every choice that follows. Without it, the day runs you instead of you running the day. And here's the truth. You don't need some big dramatic mission to wake up with clarity. You need a reason, clear enough to fuel you, real enough to guide you, strong enough to keep you from sliding back into distraction. Most people underestimate this. They think mornings are just mornings. They believe discipline happens later, once they're awake and moving. But neuroscience paints a different picture. The human brain is highly impressionable in the first 30-60 minutes after waking. Cortisol levels spike. Your mental state is fragile, and the inputs you allow, your phone, the news, random worries, get wired into your emotional baseline for the rest of the day. If you feed your brain chaos, you carry chaos. If you feed it purpose, you carry strength. Now pause and think. How many mornings have you lost already to autopilot? How many times have you opened your eyes and instantly scrolled through other people's lives, letting their noise flood your head before you even remembered who you are? Every wasted morning compounds. It eats your time like termites in wood, silent, steady, and destructive. But flip the pattern, and the opposite happens. One purposeful morning doesn't just feel better. It changes the way you think, the way you show up, and even the way your body functions. Research shows that morning rituals tied to goals improve cognitive control, reduce anxiety, and increase dopamine stability throughout the day. That means better focus, steadier mood, and higher motivation. Not because you waited for inspiration, but because you built a system that generates it. So, what does waking up with purpose look like in practice? Let's get concrete. It's not about being busy. It's about being intentional. Instead of dragging yourself out of bed like the day doesn't matter, you rise like someone with something to build. The first decision is physical. Get up, stand tall, breathe deep. Posture affects psychology. If you slouch into the day, your mind slouches too. Straighten your shoulders, and you're already rewiring. Next, clarity. Ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What am I building today? Not, what's on the to-do list? Not, what do I feel like doing? Building implies growth, structure, and progress. It shifts your brain from survival to creation. Let's test this in a real-world example. Imagine two versions of you. Version A wakes up, checks notifications, reacts to small distractions, starts late, and spends the rest of the day playing catch-up. Version B wakes up, writes down one clear outcome for the day, spends 10 quiet minutes breathing and visualizing, then steps into the morning with intention. Which version feels more powerful? Which version makes better decisions at work, with family, with personal goals? The only difference was the first 30 minutes. That's the weight of a morning routine. Here's a metaphor to lock it in. Your mornings are like the launch pad of a rocket. If the rocket is misaligned by just a few degrees at launch, it misses the destination by miles. Same with you. Start your morning drifting, and by evening, you're far off course. But align it at the start, laser-focused purpose, and you land exactly where you aimed. Now, you might be thinking, but I'm not a morning person. That's the most common excuse. And yes, some people's biology favors later, energy spikes. But purpose isn't about waking at 5 a.m. with military precision. It's about using whatever time you open your eyes as a sacred beginning. Even if you wake at 8, 9, or later, the first 30 minutes are still your launch pad. Purpose is not about time on the clock. It's about the decision to treat your time as life. Here's another psychological layer. Willpower is highest in the morning. Studies show self-control depletes as the day goes on, meaning the longer you wait, the harder it gets to stay disciplined. That's why purposeful mornings are leverage. You use your strongest mental state to lock in the most important actions before fatigue chips away at resolve. Practical system? Try this. Before bed, write one sentence on a piece of paper. Tomorrow morning, I will insert clear action. Place it where you'll see it as soon as you wake. This bypasses the sleepy brain's tendency to negotiate. You don't waste time thinking. You've already decided. And when you follow through, you stack trust with yourself. That trust becomes identity. I am someone who rises with purpose. Now imagine how this habit compounds. 1 purposeful morning builds momentum. 10 purposeful mornings shape a mindset. 100 purposeful mornings reshape a life. Confidence grows because you're no longer lying to yourself. Energy grows because your mornings feed clarity instead of confusion. And discipline grows because every day begins with a small but powerful promise, kept. Think about history's great builders, leaders, and creators. From athletes to entrepreneurs to artists, almost all of them defend their mornings fiercely. Why? Because they know the world steals focus as the day goes on. Demands, emails, noise, it all piles in. But the morning belongs to you if you claim it. It's the one part of the day where you can truly be the architect of your own direction. Here's a visualization exercise. Tomorrow, instead of hitting snooze, you wake, sit up, and plant your feet firmly on the ground. You breathe deep, 3 steady breaths. Then you ask aloud, what am I building today? You write it down, just one focus. You stretch, drink water, maybe step outside for a moment of sunlight. It takes less than 15 minutes, but your mind feels sharp, your posture strong, your mood lighter. That feeling isn't random, it's you, creating alignment. And don't underestimate the small choices here. Skipping the phone first thing is huge. Morning scrolling triggers dopamine spikes and drains focus before you even start. Protect that window. Let your brain wake naturally. Feed it intention, not distraction. Your future self will thank you. Now let's tackle the emotional side. Purpose is not a fluffy concept. It's survival. People who drift without clarity waste years. They prepare to start forever, waiting for motivation, waiting for some perfect moment that never comes. The regret hits later, when they realize decades slipped away. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to look back and realize mornings were spent sleepwalking through life. You want to wake with urgency because time is life, and life is slipping whether you act or not. Identity reinforcement. Each purposeful morning is proof. Proof that you respect yourself. Proof that you value your time. Proof that you're not living as a spectator, but as a creator. And the more proof you collect, the more permanent the identity becomes. Soon it's no longer, I should wake with purpose. It's, I don't know how to live any other way. So tomorrow, when your alarm rings, remember this. The day is your currency. Don't give it away cheap. Spend it like someone who knows every hour is an investment, because it is. You don't get this morning again. And what you choose in the first moments of consciousness sets the trajectory of everything that follows. Wake with clarity. Wake with urgency. Wake with purpose. That's where your rewired mindset begins. Planning your day is one of the simplest, yet most life-shifting habits you can ever adopt. Think about how most people drift through their hours. They wake up without a target, get pulled into notifications, let other people's priorities jump the line, and before they know it, the sun sets with nothing meaningful accomplished. The tragedy isn't that they didn't work hard. It's that their effort was scattered, reactive, and hijacked by everything except their true priorities. You've probably lived this pattern more times than you care to admit. The frustration of ending the day tired but empty, busy but unproductive, noisy but directionless. That is what happens when you don't take ownership of your day before the world steals it. Here's the reality check. If you don't design your day, someone else will. It might be your boss, your clients, your kids, your social feeds, or the endless current of digital distraction. Every input in your environment has an agenda, and none of them are to make you disciplined, fulfilled, and progressing toward your best self. That part is on you. Which is why the few minutes you spend planning in the quiet of the morning are not a luxury. They are survival. The science is clear. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus, prioritization, and decision-making, works best when it isn't overloaded with uncertainty. Without a plan, your brain cycles through constant micro-decisions. Should I answer this email first? Should I scroll for a minute? Should I tackle this project now or later? That mental chatter drains glucose and mental energy, leaving you fatigued before you've even done anything significant. But when you map the day in advance, you offload those decisions to paper. Your brain relaxes into execution mode instead of survival mode. That's why a planned day feels lighter, smoother, sharper. Now imagine two parallel versions of your morning. In version 1, you open your laptop cold. 10 tabs appear, emails flood in, your phone buzzes, and you start juggling. Stress spikes, and before long, you're drained. In version 2, you sit down with a notebook and in 5 calm minutes decide, here are my top 3 outcomes today. Here's when I'll work on them. And here's what I will not allow to distract me. The difference between those two versions of you is not talent or intelligence. It's planning. Practical system. Keep it brutally simple. Grab a pen and write down 3 priorities for the day. Not 10, not 20, just 3. Why? Because the brain craves clarity and focus. When everything matters, nothing matters. 3 forces you to choose what will actually move your life forward. Maybe it's finishing a report, making a difficult phone call, or spending undistracted time with someone you love. Write it, circle it, own it. But don't stop there. Assign time. A plan without a schedule is just a wish list. Block time on your calendar, or at least decide. From 9 to 11, I'll work on this. At 1 p.m., I'll handle that call. The moment you schedule it, you've created structure. And structure is freedom, because it frees you from the constant question of, what now? Let's go deeper with the psychology. Planning ahead reduces something called cognitive load, the amount of mental effort being used at any given moment. High cognitive load creates stress and impulsive behavior. That's why, when you don't plan, you're more likely to snack mindlessly, procrastinate, or react emotionally. But when your day is mapped, your brain has space to breathe. You feel calm because you know what's coming. You've already made the tough calls. Here's a metaphor to make it vivid. Imagine your day as a battlefield. Without a plan, you walk in blind, getting hit from every angle. With a plan, you carry a map. You know where the attacks will come, and you've already chosen your moves. The battle is the same, but your odds of winning skyrocket. And yes, planning works even if life throws curveballs. Some people resist it because they fear rigidity. But planning isn't about controlling everything. It's about preparing for the essentials, so chaos doesn't sweep you away. If an emergency pops up, fine, adapt. But when the noise passes, you return to your written priorities instead of flailing. That one piece of paper anchors you back to what matters. Now let's talk energy. When you plan your day, you conserve willpower. Instead of using up discipline deciding what to do, you save it for actually doing it. And that shift builds momentum. Every completed task gives you a dopamine hit of progress, which motivates the next action. Suddenly, you're not just working, you're flowing. Let's step into a scenario. Picture yourself at 7 a.m. You sit down, journal open, phone on airplane mode. You write, 1. Draft client proposal. 2. Run 30 minutes. 3. Call mom. 3 things. You schedule them into your day. By noon, the proposal is drafted. By afternoon, the run is done. By evening, the call is made. Everything else, the emails, the small tasks, still happens. But those 3 anchors guarantee the day mattered. Compare that with the version of you who skipped planning. By nightfall, that version feels scattered, guilty, and behind. Same number of hours, wildly different outcomes. Now consider identity reinforcement. Each time you plan and execute, you prove to yourself that you're intentional, not reactive. You begin to see yourself as someone in charge. And identity is sticky. It reshapes what you tolerate and how you act. Before long, planning isn't something you force. It's who you are. The person who doesn't drift. The person who knows where they're going. The person who finishes days with pride instead of regret. Here's a small but powerful tactic. End every planning session by asking, if I only accomplish these 3 things today, will I be proud? If the answer is yes, you've planned well. If the answer is no, adjust. This question prevents you from filling your list with fake productivity and forces you to choose what will actually matter when the day ends. Let's layer in some neuroscience. When you write your plan by hand, you activate the reticular activating system, RS, in your brain. That's the part that filters what gets your attention. Once something is written, your RAS marks it as important and starts scanning for ways to accomplish it. It's why simply jotting a goal increases the likelihood of completing it. Writing primes your brain for execution. So don't just think your plan, ink your plan. And let's address resistance. You'll have mornings where planning feels boring or pointless. That's normal. But boredom is not a valid excuse. You don't need excitement to create clarity. You need discipline. Remember, planning is like brushing your teeth. It's not glamorous, but skip it, and the decay spreads silently until the damage shows. Another tool, pre-commitment. If you struggle to follow your plan, tell someone your top 3 outcomes for the day. Accountability sharpens focus. But more than that, it reminds you that your word matters. When you declare your priorities and follow through, you build trust with yourself and with others. That trust compounds into confidence. Now think about evenings. Most people collapse into bed exhausted but unsatisfied. But when you planned, evenings become a time of reflection. You can look back and say, "Yes, I did what I set out to do." That feeling of closure reduces anxiety and improves sleep quality. Why? Because your brain isn't spinning with unfinished business. It's resting, ready for tomorrow. So, tomorrow morning, resist the pull of chaos. Before you touch your phone, before you dive into work, sit with yourself. 5 minutes. Pen, paper, silence. Write down what matters most. Own it, schedule it, protect it. Then step into the day with confidence that you've already chosen the direction. No more drifting. No more ending days in regret. This is how you take back control of your life, not through grand gestures, but through the small daily act of planning before the world distracts you. Every day, you carry on a conversation with yourself that no one else hears. The words you whisper in your mind, the labels you slap on yourself, the judgments you repeat. These create the background music of your life. And here's the sobering truth. That inner voice shapes your identity more than the opinions of any friend, critic, or stranger ever will. If you speak to yourself with disrespect, your confidence will always be fragile. But if you speak with respect, if you treat yourself the way you'd treat someone you love, you begin to rewire your mindset from the inside out. Think about it. Would you ever call a close friend lazy, worthless, or a failure every time they made a mistake? Would you roll your eyes at your child if they stumbled while learning to walk? Of course not. You'd encourage them, remind them of their potential, and push them to keep going. Yet many people speak to themselves in exactly those cruel ways. Every slip-up becomes, "I never get it right." Every delay becomes, "I'll never change." Over time, those words turn into beliefs, and beliefs turn into patterns. That is the hidden damage of negative self-talk. It quietly programs you to play small. Now imagine flipping that script. Imagine if your inner voice became your greatest coach instead of your harshest critic. Every stumble becomes, "I'm still learning." Every delay becomes, "I'm catching myself faster now." Every challenge becomes, "I can handle this because I've handled things before." Those phrases might seem small, but repetition turns them into mental armor. Respectful self-talk doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It means being fair, being accurate, and being constructive. Here's a layer of psychology. The brain doesn't differentiate much between external voices and internal voices. Your nervous system responds to both. That means if you're constantly insulting yourself, your body reacts with stress responses, tight muscles, shallow breathing, cortisol spikes. Your biology literally embodies the criticism. But when you replace those insults with constructive language, your body responds with calm, stability, and focus. Words don't just describe your reality, they shape it. So how do you start rewiring your inner voice? Step 1. Awareness. Most of your self-talk runs on autopilot. You don't even notice it. Begin by catching it. Pay attention to the first thoughts that surface when you make a mistake or face a challenge. Write them down. This step alone exposes the patterns. Step 2. Reframe. When you catch yourself saying, "I'm terrible at this," change it to, "I'm improving at this with practice." When you think, "I always fail," replace it with, "I've failed before, but I've also learned before." This isn't toxic positivity. It's accurate truth. Step 3. Reinforce. Speak the new phrase out loud, even if it feels awkward. The more senses involved, hearing, speaking, writing, the deeper the rewiring. Let's bring in a scenario. Imagine you're learning a new skill, maybe speaking in front of an audience. The first attempt feels shaky. The critic inside says, "See, you're not cut out for this. You embarrass yourself." That voice pushes you to quit. But a respectful inner voice would say, "That was tough, but I showed up. Next time, I'll be stronger." Which voice sets you up for growth? Which one builds resilience? The difference between quitting and improving is often the tone of your self-talk. Identity reinforcement plays a huge role here. Every time you speak respectfully to yourself, you confirm that you are someone worth respecting, and that belief spills into how you treat your body, your work, and your relationships. Conversely, every time you tolerate disrespect from your own thoughts, you lower your standard for how you let the world treat you too. In other words, self-respect is contagious. It spreads to every area of your life. Now here's an important distinction: discipline versus disrespect. Many people confuse being hard on themselves with discipline. But discipline is about standards. I expect more because I know I can do better. Disrespect is about shame. I'm not good enough, so I'll never make it. One pushes you forward, the other drags you down. Train your mind to recognize the difference. Let's talk about small daily practices. In the morning, look in the mirror, and instead of noticing only flaws, pick one thing you respect about yourself. It could be as simple as, "I kept going yesterday when I felt tired." At night, reflect on one phrase you told yourself that helped you push through. Write it down. These little practices compound into a new internal dialogue. And here's where neuroscience comes back in. Neurons that fire together wire together. Each time you replace a negative thought with a respectful one, you're strengthening a new neural pathway. Over time, the negative path weakens, and the respectful path becomes automatic. That's not motivation, it's biology. You're literally rewiring your brain to default to encouragement instead of criticism. Think of it like training a puppy. If you yell at the puppy every time it stumbles, it grows fearful and hesitant. But if you guide it patiently, rewarding effort, it grows confident and willing to try. Your mind is no different. Harshness breeds hesitation. Respect breeds resilience. Now picture yourself in the toughest moment of your week. Maybe you missed a deadline, had an awkward interaction, or slipped on a personal goal. In that moment, your inner voice shows its true colors. Do you pile shame on top of the problem? Or do you stand steady and tell yourself, "Yes, I slipped, but this is part of growth. I still trust myself to recover." That one decision separates those who spiral from those who rise. This isn't about perfection. You will still have moments where negative thoughts rush in. That's normal. What matters is your response. Every time you stop, correct, and replace. You're practicing mental discipline, and with enough practice, correction becomes reflex. That's when your mindset has truly rewired. So from now on, treat your inner dialogue like a training ground. Notice the tone, catch the insults, replace them with respect. Speak like someone who wants to see you win, because at the end of the day, you are the only person you're guaranteed to spend every moment with. Make sure that person is a supporter, not a saboteur. There's a moment we all know too well, the pause right before action. You think of the task, the workout, the phone call, the hard decision. At first you feel a flash of intention, maybe even excitement. But then your mind intervenes. It whispers, "Not now. I'll do it later. I'll wait until I feel ready." And just like that, the momentum vanishes. The day slides on, and the thing you meant to do stays undone. This tiny delay may seem harmless, but it's the exact place where most dreams die. The habit of postponement is more destructive than failure itself, because it builds a life of almosts, maybes, and tomorrows that never arrive. You've lived it. Everyone has. You tell yourself you'll start exercising next week, that you'll write when inspiration strikes, that you'll fix your finances when things calm down. But later is a mirage. It looks close, but recedes as you walk toward it. The truth is, hesitation hardens into identity. If you always delay, you start to see yourself as someone who can't follow through. That belief becomes heavy, and soon, the very thought of taking action feels overwhelming. Here's the mindset shift. Delay is not protection, it's poison. Your brain disguises it as logic. I'm tired. I'll be sharper tomorrow. But most of the time, tomorrow looks exactly like today. By postponing, you're training your nervous system to equate discomfort with avoidance. Over time, that becomes automatic. The moment you face resistance, your body defaults to retreat. If you want to rewire your mindset, you must break that reflex. So how? By flipping the script in the exact moment hesitation appears. Instead of waiting to feel ready, you act while resistance is fresh. That window is tiny, seconds, not minutes. Wait too long, and the mind takes over with a dozen excuses. Move quickly, and you bypass the negotiation. This is why some coaches talk about the 5-second rule, or micro-commitments. It's not magic, it's psychology. The faster you act, the less room your brain has to sabotage you. Think of momentum like a muscle. Each time you act, despite hesitation, you strengthen it. Each time you wait, you weaken it. That's why starting the workout matters more than finishing it perfectly. That's why sending the email matters more than writing the perfect draft. Once you begin, energy shows up. The brain releases dopamine, not from thinking about action, but from initiating it. You don't need motivation first. You need movement first. Motivation comes after. Let's ground this with an example. Imagine you've promised yourself to study for 30 minutes tonight. At 7 p.m., your mind says, "Not yet. Maybe after one more video." If you obey that thought, you set a precedent. Hesitation wins. But if you simply open the book and read the first page, just one page, you've shifted the pattern. Often, that one page turns into 20. It's the starting that matters. Neuroscience backs this up. The brain is wired for efficiency. It seeks the path of least resistance. Hesitation feels safe because it avoids energy expenditure. But when you consistently override hesitation, your brain adapts. It learns that action, not avoidance, is the new baseline. Over time, resistance weakens. You no longer debate endlessly. You simply do. That's neuroplasticity in action. rewiring the brain through repeated behavior. Now, let's address fear. Because hesitation often hides fear beneath it. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. But action shrinks fear. The longer you wait, the larger fear grows. Imagine a shadow on the wall. It looks huge until you turn on the light. Action is the light. It reveals the shadow for what it is, smaller than you thought. Here's a strategy to practice. The 2-minute action. When your brain says delay, commit to doing the task for just 2 minutes. Write for 2 minutes. Clean for 2 minutes. Exercise for 2 minutes. Most of the time, once you start, momentum carries you far beyond. And even if you stop, you've still trained your identity to favor action over avoidance. Think of athletes. They don't wait until they feel like training. They train, and the feeling follows. Think of entrepreneurs. They don't wait until the market is perfect. They launch, learn, and adapt. Waiting is easy. Acting is rare. That's why those who move in the face of hesitation rise above the crowd. Let's bring in identity reinforcement again. Every time you override delay, you reinforce the story. I am someone who acts. That story becomes pride, and pride fuels more action. On the flip side, each time you stall, you reinforce. I am someone who hesitates. That story becomes shame, and shame fuels more delay. Which cycle do you want? Imagine how different your life would look if every time hesitation appeared, you leaned into action. The projects half finished would be completed. The conversations avoided would be handled. The fitness goals postponed would be in motion. Your confidence would skyrocket. Not because life became easier, but because you trusted yourself to move anyway. Here's a visualization exercise. Picture the next moment hesitation shows up. Maybe tomorrow morning when you see your running shoes. Instead of saying, "I'll start later," you put them on immediately. Feel the difference in your body. Notice how the act of moving collapses the argument. Suddenly the debate is gone. You're already in motion. That is the power of immediate action. It silences the critic by proving it wrong. The key here is consistency. Acting once despite hesitation feels good, but doing it daily rewires your identity. Soon, hesitation appears less and less. You stop wasting energy debating. You stop procrastinating opportunities. You become someone who sees resistance not as a stop sign, but as a signal to go. So remember this: hesitation is not harmless. It's a test. Every time it appears, your future hangs in the balance. Will you obey the voice that says later, or will you move now? The choice shapes your destiny, one small action at a time. Anyone can start. Most people do. Starting feels exciting. Fresh notebooks, new plans, the spark of possibility. But the truth is, beginnings aren't what define you. Finishing does. Anyone can take the first step. Few push through the middle grind and reach the end. And that's why finishing what you start isn't just a productivity hack. It's a character-defining habit. Think about it. How many half-read books sit on your shelf? How many abandoned projects live on your computer? How many "I'll get back to it" promises clutter your mind? Each unfinished task doesn't just sit there. It drains you. It whispers at you. It chips away at your belief that you're someone who follows through. And over time, that erosion of self-trust becomes heavy. Here's the core problem. Our brains crave novelty. The start of something new lights up dopamine centers, but that initial rush fades quickly. The middle is where boredom, difficulty, and distraction creep in. That's when most people bail. They chase the next spark instead of finishing the current fire. The cycle repeats. Exciting starts, weak finishes, no lasting progress. The shift you need is this. Finishing is not about feeling motivated. It's about honoring your standards. It's about deciding, if I start it today, I finish it today. That small rule transforms your identity. No more leaving loose ends. No more mental clutter. You build momentum by closing loops, not by stacking half-done work. Let's make this practical. Suppose you sit down to write an email but stop halfway because you don't feel inspired. That half-finished draft lingers in your head all day, stealing energy. But if you just push through and send it, the loop closes, energy releases, you're lighter. The same goes for cleaning, studying, exercising. Completion isn't just about tasks, it's about peace. Science backs this up. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks occupy mental space and create tension until completed. That's why you can't relax when projects are hanging. But the moment you finish, your brain lets go. Completion frees mental bandwidth for the next challenge. So how do you train yourself to finish? Step 1. Shrink the task. If the finish line feels overwhelming, break it into smaller finishes. Instead of write a book, aim to write 1 page. Instead of organize the house, finish 1 drawer. Finishing builds confidence, and confidence fuels bigger finishes. Step 2. Set micro deadlines. Tell yourself, I will complete this in the next 30 minutes. Deadlines create urgency, and urgency kills procrastination. Step 3. Resist the itch to jump ship. When you feel the pull to start something new, remind yourself, unfinished work is weight, and you don't carry dead weight anymore. Let's drop into a real scenario. Imagine you're mid-workout. You've done 7 sets. You're tired. And your mind says, that's enough for today. But you planned 10. Do you stop? If you quit, you've told your brain, your mood decides your standards. But if you push and finish the 10th set, you tell your brain, I finish what I start, no matter what. That message rewires you deeper than the workout itself. This habit matters beyond tasks. It shapes how people trust you. If you're the kind of person who always leaves things half done, others notice. Your reputation becomes shaky. But when you finish, even small things, people see you as reliable. Opportunities flow to those who follow through. Now let's talk about identity again. Every finish is proof. Proof that you don't quit early. Proof that your standards are stronger than your feelings. Proof that you can depend on yourself. And self-dependence is the root of real confidence. Not applause, not results, but the quiet pride of knowing you close every loop you open. Here's a metaphor. Imagine building a bridge. If you stop halfway, it doesn't matter how beautiful the first half is. It's useless. You can't cross. But even a rough, imperfect bridge that stretches all the way across gets you to the other side. That's finishing. Imperfect. Maybe messy, but complete. And complete is what moves you forward. Another tool. Practice daily completions. Each day, pick 1 thing you absolutely will finish before bed. Not 10, not 20, just 1. It could be finishing a chapter, sending a proposal, cleaning the kitchen. Do it, no matter what. Over time, these completions stack into a new identity. Soon, finishing isn't effort, it's default. Let's address resistance. Some days you won't feel like finishing. Your brain will flood you with excuses. It's late. I'll do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter anyway. Those thoughts are tests. Every time you push through them, you win a small battle against your weaker self. Every time you surrender, you strengthen the weaker self. Think of the greatest athletes and leaders. They aren't great because they start more than others. They're great because they finish what others abandon. They show up, push through, and close the loop even when conditions aren't perfect. That's why they rise above the noise. So tomorrow, when you start something, anything, make a promise. No loose ends, no abandoned drafts, no unfinished tasks hanging over you. Finish. Finish small. Finish big. Finish messy if you must. But finish. Because finishing is the habit that builds trust, clears space, and rewires your identity into someone unstoppable. Your energy is not infinite. Every morning you wake up with a limited supply, like a battery charged overnight. The way you spend it decides whether you end the day sharp, alive, and focused, or drained, scattered, and defeated. Most people don't lose because they lack talent or discipline. They lose because they leak energy into things that don't matter. Conversations that go nowhere. Commitments that drain more than they give. Habits that offer nothing in return. If you don't learn to say no, you'll never have the strength to say yes to what truly builds you. Let's call this what it is: people-pleasing and distraction chasing. We say yes because we don't want to seem rude, because we fear missing out, because it feels easier in the moment to agree than to stand firm. But every unnecessary yes is a theft. It robs you of the time and clarity you need for the work that matters. And at the end of the day, you wonder why you're exhausted, yet unfulfilled. The answer isn't a mystery. You've let too many things in that never deserved a place in your life. Think of your energy like money. If you gave away $10 every time someone asked, without checking whether you could afford it, you'd end up broke. The same principle applies to your time and focus. But because the cost is invisible, measured in fatigue, resentment, stress, we often don't notice until it's too late. That's why boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. Here's the shift. Protecting your energy is not about isolation or saying no to everything. It's about saying no to the wrong things so you can fiercely say yes to the right ones. The draining conversations, the pointless scrolling, the toxic obligations, they are not neutral. They are holes in your bucket. Patch them, and suddenly you have strength left over for growth. Practical system? Start with an energy audit. For 1 week, track how you feel after each activity, person, or habit. Did it leave you lighter or heavier? Did it fuel your focus or drain it? Patterns will emerge quickly. Maybe you notice that certain meetings always leave you mentally fried. Maybe you realize that 10 minutes of social media turns into an hour of fog. Once you see the leaks, you can act. Action step: apply the build or drain filter. Every decision, every request, every commitment, ask yourself, does this build me or drain me? If it drains, the default answer is no. No explanation needed. No guilt required. You are protecting the currency of your life. And here's where psychology deepens this truth. Research on ego depletion shows that decision fatigue is real. Every small choice eats at your willpower. Saying yes to too many things isn't just tiring. It actually weakens your ability to make strong choices later. Boundaries aren't about being harsh. They're about conserving decision-making power for what matters most. Now, let's talk relationships. Some people lift you, others drain you. It's not about blaming them. It's about noticing the effect. A single draining relationship can overshadow 10 uplifting ones. If you constantly walk away from someone feeling smaller, more anxious, less motivated, that's a red flag. Protecting your energy might mean reducing time with them or cutting ties entirely. Hard choices, yes. But growth requires courage. Here's a metaphor to lock this in. Imagine a garden. Every plant you grow represents a goal, a dream, a part of your identity. But weeds keep sprouting. If you water everything equally, weeds choke out the flowers. But if you pull the weeds and direct water only to the right plants, the garden thrives. Your energy works the same way. Say no to weeds. Say yes to growth. Another tool. Create default no's. Pre-decide certain boundaries. For example, no phone before breakfast, no commitments after 9 p.m., no meetings longer than 30 minutes, unless essential. When the opportunity arises, you don't debate. You already know it's a no. This saves energy and prevents guilt-driven decisions. Now, let's bring identity reinforcement. Each time you say no to something draining, you're not just rejecting a task. You're proving to yourself that your peace matters. That proof becomes pride, and pride fuels consistency. Soon, no isn't awkward. It's natural. You become someone who guards their energy fiercely, who shows up fully where it matters, and refuses to waste away in places that don't. Of course, there's resistance. The first time you say no, you might feel guilty. Someone may react, question, or even get upset. That's normal. But remember, boundaries reveal who respects you and who only valued you for your compliance. The people who belong in your life will adjust. The ones who don't were never meant to have that much access to your energy. Here's a scenario. You've had a long week, and a friend invites you out late, even though you're exhausted. Old you says yes to avoid disappointing them. New you says, I appreciate the invite, but I need to recharge tonight. They might pout, or they might understand. Either way, you've honored yourself. You wake the next day, refreshed, focused, and ready to move closer to your goals. That choice builds momentum. And don't forget, this habit applies to your own patterns too. It's not just people who drain you. Sometimes it's you. The mindless scrolling, the endless worrying, the overcommitment to things you don't even care about. Saying no isn't just external, it's internal discipline too. No to the 5th hour of television. No to the thought loop of what if. No to the temptation to sabotage your own progress. The deeper point is this: life won't get less demanding. People won't stop asking. Distractions won't disappear. The only variable is your boundary, and boundaries are choices. Every yes costs you something. Every no frees you. So tomorrow, when requests flood in and distractions scream for attention, pause. Ask, does this build me or drain me? And if it drains, let the word no roll off your tongue with calm confidence. No apology, no guilt, just clarity. Because your energy is sacred, and if you don't protect it, the world will consume it. Your body craves fuel, but so does your mind. Just as skipping meals leaves you weak and sluggish, skipping mental nourishment leaves you stagnant and unprepared for growth. If you want to rewire your mindset, you must feed it daily, not with junk information that distracts you, but with ideas that sharpen, stretch, and expand your perspective. A hungry mind is restless, unfocused, and prone to repeating old patterns. A fed mind, on the other hand, becomes agile, curious, and ready to create new pathways. Think of your brain like soil. Leave it barren, and weeds grow by default. Fear, negativity, excuses. But plant seeds every day. Knowledge, insights, wisdom, And over time, a new garden emerges. What you put in is what grows. Garbage in, garbage out. Wisdom in, strength out. The quality of your thoughts cannot rise above the quality of the input you consume. Here's the core problem. Most people consume information passively and aimlessly. Hours of social feeds, gossip, entertainment news. These inputs may feel harmless, but they aren't neutral. They dull your edge, steal your focus, and program your thinking toward triviality. Your brain adapts to what it's fed. Feed it shallow things, and you think shallow. Feed it depth, and you think deeply. The shift you need is intentionality. You don't need to devour entire libraries or spend 10 hours a day reading. You simply need to learn one new idea each day, one perspective, one strategy, one story that challenges you to think differently. That habit compounds. One idea a day means 365 new insights a year. Over 5 years, that's more than 1-800 mental upgrades. Imagine the edge you'd have if you carried that much fresh wiring inside your head. So how do you make this practical? Create a mind diet. Just as a healthy diet includes proteins, vegetables, and clean water, a healthy mental diet includes books, podcasts, conversations, and experiences that nourish you. Replace 20 minutes of scrolling with 20 minutes of reading. Listen to an educational podcast during your commute instead of music that numbs you. Have one conversation a week with someone who challenges you instead of only talking to those who echo your current beliefs. Here's where science adds weight. Neuroplasticity research shows that the brain constantly reorganizes itself based on input. New knowledge literally builds new neural connections. It sharpens cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt, solve problems, and innovate. When you learn daily, you aren't just stacking facts, you're physically reshaping your brain. That's why the most adaptable people are lifelong learners. They keep wiring themselves for growth, while others fossilize into old patterns. Let's anchor this in a scenario. Imagine 2 versions of you 5 years from now. One spends 5 years consuming junk information. The other spends 5 years feeding their mind daily. The first version thinks in loops, complains about the same problems, and reacts to life instead of creating it. The second version carries thousands of new insights, strategies, and perspectives. They see opportunities others miss. They connect dots faster. They respond with wisdom instead of impulse. Same starting point, radically different destination, all because of a daily choice. And remember, it's not about volume, it's about consistency. The person who reads 10 minutes a day for years will outgrow the person who binge learns once in a while and then falls back into stagnation. It's the drip, not the flood, that carves stone. Now let's add identity reinforcement. When you feed your mind daily, you don't just gain knowledge, you become a learner. You begin to see yourself as someone who grows, who evolves, who doesn't settle for ignorance. That identity pushes you to keep going, even on days when you feel tired. You don't need motivation. You need alignment with who you are becoming. Practical tactic. Create a knowledge bank. Every day, jot down the one idea you learned in a notebook or digital file. It could be a line from a book, a strategy from a mentor, or a lesson from your own experience. Over time, you'll build a personal library of wisdom that belongs to you. Reviewing it will reinforce the habit and remind you how much progress you've made. Here's another metaphor. Picture your brain as a fire. Every new idea is kindling. The more you add, the hotter the fire burns. Stop feeding it, and the fire cools until only embers remain. A cold fire doesn't light the world, But a burning one has power, warmth, and presence. That's the difference between a stagnant mind and a growing one. Of course, you'll face resistance. Your brain may say, "I don't have time today." But you always have scraps of time. Waiting in line, commuting, winding down before bed. The issue isn't lack of time, it's lack of intention. Reclaim those scraps and turn them into fuel. And here's a crucial warning. Protect your inputs. Feeding your mind doesn't just mean adding good. It also means reducing junk. Negative voices, toxic media, endless arguments online. Each one is mental fast food. Occasional indulgence won't kill you, but a steady diet will rot your thinking. Be as selective about what enters your mind as you are about what enters your body. So tomorrow, make a choice. Before the day ends, feed your mind one new idea. Write it down. Let it spark curiosity. Stack it with yesterday's idea and the day before that. Soon, you'll notice your thoughts shifting, your perspective widening, your confidence deepening. Because a fed mind doesn't just absorb knowledge, it radiates it. It shapes your words, your actions, your destiny. And all it takes is the daily discipline to feed it. Your emotions are powerful. They can be the wind at your back or the chains on your feet. When you're calm, clear, and grounded, you make sharp decisions, treat people with patience, and keep momentum alive. But when you're flooded with anger, fear, or anxiety, your judgment narrows, your focus fractures, and even small tasks feel impossible. The truth is, success isn't about eliminating emotions, it's about regulating them. And one of the most effective, underestimated tools you have for emotional regulation is movement. Think about the last time you felt stuck in your head, spiraling in worry, replaying an argument, drowning in overthinking. What did your body do? Most likely, you sat still, hunched, tense, frozen in mental loops. That's no accident. Your body posture influences your emotional state. Stillness can intensify stuck emotions, but movement breaks the cycle. When you move, you literally change your chemistry. Blood flows, endorphins release, stress hormones lower. Your nervous system resets. Movement isn't just physical, it's emotional first aid. This doesn't mean you need to run marathons to regulate your mood. It means using your body strategically as a lever for your mind. A brisk walk outside, a stretch at your desk, a quick set of push-ups, a dance in your living room. These small movements shift your physiology, which shifts your psychology. Your emotions are chemical signals, and chemicals respond to motion. Science confirms this. Exercise increases levels of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, the very neurotransmitters linked to happiness and calm. It also reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that spikes during worry. That's why after movement, problems feel smaller, options feel wider, and your mind feels clearer. You didn't magically solve everything. You simply created a new chemical environment in your body that allowed better thinking. Here's a scenario. You've been grinding at your desk for hours, frustration rising, emails piling up, mind foggy, patience thin. Old you would push harder, force focus, and end up more drained. New you remembers. Emotions live in the body. You stand, step outside, walk briskly for 10 minutes, breathing deeply. When you return, the frustration has lifted, ideas flow again, and the same work feels lighter. That's not laziness. It's emotional management. Movement also creates space between stimulus and response. When you feel anger building, a quick walk gives your nervous system time to cool before you say something you regret. When anxiety spikes, Physical activity grounds you in the present, pulling you out of catastrophic future scenarios. In other words, movement is a pause button for runaway emotions. Now, let's tie this to identity. When you use movement to regulate emotions, you're not just exercising. You're proving to yourself that you don't let feelings control your actions. You control your feelings. That identity, calm, steady, resilient, changes how you show up in every area of life. You become the person people trust in a crisis, the one who doesn't break under pressure, and it starts with the simple choice to move when emotions swell. Practical system: create emotional reset rituals. For example, whenever you feel stuck, you do 10 push-ups. Whenever you feel anxious, you step outside and walk 1 block. Whenever you feel angry, you stretch and breathe for 2 minutes. These rituals train your brain to associate movement with relief. Soon, instead of spiraling, you instinctively move. Metaphor time. Picture emotions like weather. Some days it's stormy, anger, fear, stress. Other days it's calm, joy, clarity, focus. You can't control the weather, but you can carry an umbrella. Movement is that umbrella. It doesn't stop the storm, but it protects you, keeps you functional, and gets you through until the skies clear. And here's the beauty. The more you use movement for regulation, the more resilient your baseline becomes. You don't just calm down after stress. You raise your threshold for stress altogether. Your nervous system becomes trained to bounce back faster. That resilience is what separates those who collapse under life's weight from those who carry it with strength. Of course, resistance will show up. Your mind will say, "I don't have time." But the truth is, you don't have time not to. The 5 minutes you save by pushing through in frustration cost you hours of poor focus and sloppy decisions. A short reset pays back tenfold. And don't underestimate joy in this process. Movement doesn't need to feel like punishment. Dance to your favorite song, laugh while you stretch, play a sport you love. Joy amplifies the emotional reset. It reminds you that you're not just surviving stress. You're actively creating states of energy and fun. So tomorrow, when your emotions swell and your focus cracks, remember, you are not trapped in your head. You carry the key in your body. Stand, move, breathe, reset. The storm will pass faster, and you'll return, not weaker, but stronger. Because regulating emotions through movement isn't just about calming down. It's about proving to yourself, again and again, that you are in charge of your state. At the end of the day, your mind craves closure. Without it, you lie in bed replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, or criticizing yourself for what you didn't get done. That endless loop steals your sleep, weakens your confidence, and keeps your brain trapped in a cycle of unfinished thoughts. The habit that rewires this is simple but profound. A daily review, a short, consistent ritual that allows you to reflect, release, and reset before stepping into a new day. Think of it like closing tabs on your computer. Leave too many open and the system slows down, glitches, maybe even crashes. But when you review and shut them down one by one, everything runs smoother. Your mind works the same way. Without reflection, it's cluttered with half-processed experiences. With reflection, you clear the noise and carry forward only what matters. So, what does a daily review look like? It doesn't have to be complicated. 5 to 10 minutes at night is enough. Step 1. Acknowledge what you did well. Too often, you finish a day and immediately focus on what went wrong. Flip it. Write down 3 wins, no matter how small. I finished that report. I made time to move my body. I resisted scrolling and stayed focused. This isn't arrogance, it's reinforcement. It tells your brain, I am someone who acts, who grows, who follows through. Step 2. Capture lessons. What didn't go smoothly? Where did you stumble? But instead of judgment, ask, what can I learn from this? Mistakes aren't failures if you extract wisdom from them. Maybe you notice you're always drained after afternoon meetings. Lesson: schedule important work earlier. Maybe you realize you snapped at someone when you were hungry. Lesson: manage your energy before interactions. These little insights compound into massive growth. Step 3. Release. Whatever you didn't finish today, write it down for tomorrow. This removes it from your head and places it on paper. Your brain relaxes because it knows the task is stored, safe, and will be handled. Sleep comes easier. Tomorrow feels lighter. Here's where psychology supports this. Studies show that reflection strengthens memory and learning. When you review your day, you reinforce the lessons and wire them deeper. At the same time, writing down unfinished tasks reduces rumination and improves sleep quality. In other words, the review ritual doesn't just feel good, it measurably upgrades your brain's ability to grow and recover. Let's bring in identity. Each time you review your day, you prove that you are intentional, not reactive. You live with awareness, not autopilot. That identity is powerful. Most people drift through life repeating the same mistakes. You, on the other hand, are someone who pauses, extracts wisdom, and moves forward sharper. That habit separates the stagnant from the evolving. Here's a scenario. You had a rough day. Traffic, stress, missed deadlines. Old you collapses into bed, frustrated, carrying all that weight into tomorrow. New you takes 10 minutes. You write, win. I didn't quit even though it was rough. Lesson: I need to plan better buffer time for traffic. Release: unfinished tasks moved to tomorrow's list. Close the notebook, breathe, and sleep. Instead of chaos, you end with clarity. Tomorrow starts with focus instead of frustration. Another metaphor. Think of your mind like a chalkboard. Every day people write on it. Tasks, conversations, challenges. If you never wipe it down, it becomes cluttered and unreadable. A daily review is the eraser. You keep what's important, clear what's not, and leave space for tomorrow's writing. Practical tip: keep the review simple and consistent. Some people use a journal, others use a digital note, some even speak it out loud. The format doesn't matter, the habit does. Aim for the same time each night, so it becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. Over time, the review won't feel like effort, it'll feel like closure. And don't underestimate the emotional benefit. Reflection builds gratitude, even on hard days. You can find wins: a kind word you gave, a moment of patience, a task completed. Gratitude shifts your nervous system into calm, reducing stress hormones and improving sleep. It reminds you that even in struggle, progress exists. Now here's the deeper reward. Reviews compound. One review helps you close a single day, but hundreds of reviews build a track record of growth. You'll look back and see hundreds of wins recorded, hundreds of lessons captured. That evidence fuels confidence, proof that you're not standing still. You're evolving. So tonight, before bed, take the time. Reflect on what went right. Capture what you learned. Release what you didn't finish. Then close the page and rest. Do this every night, and your mindset rewires into one of awareness, gratitude, and constant improvement. Because success isn't built in years, it's built in days, and days are completed one review at a time. Consistency is the hinge that everything else swings on. You can wake up early one morning, plan a day with precision, speak kindly to yourself, take decisive action, finish tasks, protect your energy, feed your mind, move your body, and reflect at night. But if you do it only once in a while, it won't rewire anything. Habits don't form through intensity. They form through repetition. The transformation happens not in the breakthrough days, but in the ordinary ones. The mornings you don't feel like rising. The evenings you'd rather skip reflection. The workouts you'd rather avoid. The habit of consistency is what welds all the other habits into your identity. Think of a single brick. On its own, it's not much. But place one brick every day in the same direction. And over time, you have a wall, a house, a fortress. Consistency is the laying of bricks. It feels unimpressive in the moment, but the compound effect is unstoppable. Miss a day, the wall still stands. Miss too many, the wall weakens. But keep laying bricks, and one day you'll look up and see a structure that shelters you, a mindset rewired, strong and unshakable. Here's the problem most people fall into. They chase motivation. They wait until they feel like acting, and then they act. But motivation is fickle. It comes in waves, unpredictable and fleeting. Relying on motivation guarantees inconsistency. The shift you need is this. Don't act because you feel motivated. Act because this is who you are now. You don't brush your teeth because you feel inspired. You do it because it's part of you. That's how every positive habit must feel. Automatic, identity-driven, non-negotiable. Science backs this up. Habits form through repetition that wires neural pathways deeper each time. Neuroscientists call it long-term potentiation, the strengthening of connections through repeated activation. In simple terms, the more consistently you fire a pattern, the more effortlessly it becomes your default. Skipping doesn't just miss a day, it weakens the wiring. Showing up, even imperfectly, reinforces it. Let's ground this in a scenario. Imagine someone who decides to meditate for 10 minutes daily. The first week is smooth. They're excited. By week 3, enthusiasm dips. One night they skip because they're tired. Another day because they're busy. Soon the practice is gone. Contrast that with someone who decides, no matter what, I'll sit for at least 1 minute daily. Some days it's 1 minute, others it's 20. But they never break the chain. A year later, their identity is cemented. I am someone who meditates. The first person relied on motivation. The second relied on consistency. Now let's tie in identity. Every act reinforces the kind of person you believe you are. Each time you show up, even when it's inconvenient, you reinforce. I am disciplined. I am reliable. I finish what I commit to. That's why small wins matter so much. The workout you complete tired counts more than the workout you complete motivated. The reflection you write when you'd rather scroll counts more than the one you write on a calm day. Consistency and discomfort is what cements identity. Here's a tool. Never miss twice. Life happens. You'll slip. You'll miss a workout, a review, a study session. That's human. But make a rule. Never miss 2 days in a row. Missing once is a stumble. Missing twice is a pattern. Guard against the second miss, and you'll preserve momentum. Another tool. Anchor habits. Tie new habits to existing ones. For example, reflect each night after brushing your teeth. Read after your morning coffee. Move your body immediately after closing your laptop from work. Anchoring removes decision fatigue and makes consistency automatic. Think of consistency like compound interest. The small deposit you make daily may feel invisible, but compounded over months and years, it turns into a fortune of strength, discipline, and resilience. Miss too many deposits, and the account stays empty. Stay consistent, and you grow wealthy in character and capacity. Here's a metaphor. Imagine dripping water on stone. 1 drop does nothing. 100 drops leave no mark. But years of steady drops carve deep grooves into rock. That's the power of consistency. It doesn't impress in the moment, but it transforms landscapes over time. Of course, resistance whispers lies. Skipping once won't matter. And technically, it's true. But habits aren't about one day. They're about what you're training yourself to believe. Skipping says, I break promises to myself. Showing up says, I honor them. Every day you choose, you're casting a vote for who you are becoming. So ask yourself, are you willing to be consistent even when it's boring, inconvenient, or unglamorous? Because those days, not the easy ones, are the ones that count. Transformation isn't built in a flash of inspiration. It's built brick by brick, drop by drop, act by act, until the habits are no longer something you do. They are who you are. There's a secret most people overlook. You don't need massive victories to change your life. You need small wins stacked daily. Too often we imagine transformation as a single dramatic leap. The book deal, the promotion, the six-pack, the breakthrough moment. But real change doesn't arrive in a thunderclap. It's built quietly, brick by brick, through the habit of collecting small, steady wins until they snowball into unstoppable momentum. Why small wins? Because they're achievable today. You can't transform your career overnight, but you can send one pitch, learn one skill, or make one call. You can't master your health instantly, but you can drink more water, take a brisk walk, or cook one clean meal. These tiny actions seem trivial, but they create a psychological loop. Effort, result, confidence, more effort. That loop compounds until the wins feel inevitable. Here's the trap most people fall into. They dismiss small wins because they don't feel dramatic. They wait for perfect conditions, for a grand gesture, for the big start. But waiting kills momentum. The longer you wait, the heavier starting feels. The shift you need is to see small wins, not as insignificant, but as essential. A single domino might look powerless, but line them up and one push topples hundreds. Small wins are those first dominoes, humble but explosive in sequence. Science supports this. Behavioral psychology shows that immediate rewards drive long-term habits. Your brain thrives on feedback. Every time you check off a small win, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation. That hit of dopamine reinforces the behavior and makes you more likely to repeat it. In other words, small wins wire your brain for momentum. Here's a scenario. You've been meaning to get in shape. Old you sets an impossible standard, an hour-long workout 6 days a week. By week 2, you burn out, quit, and confirm the story that you lack discipline. New you focuses on small wins. 5 push-ups today, 6 tomorrow, a walk after dinner, a single soda replaced with water. None feel earth-shattering, but weeks later, you're stronger, lighter, and prouder. The small wins stacked into visible change. Now let's tie this to identity. Each small win is a vote. When you finish a glass of water instead of soda, you vote. I am someone who takes care of my body. When you write 1 page instead of none, You vote, I am a writer. When you choose to move instead of scroll, you vote, I am disciplined. Identity doesn't shift in giant declarations. It shifts in tiny ballots cast daily until the evidence is undeniable. Practical system? Build a win tracker. Write down 3 small wins every day. Not massive achievements, simple, repeatable actions. Over time, the tracker becomes proof. Proof that you're consistent. Proof that you grow. Proof that even on rough days, you collect victories. On low-energy days, this tracker becomes your fuel, evidence that progress is always within reach. Here's another metaphor. Momentum is like a snowball. At first, it's tiny and fragile, but push it a few feet and it grows. Keep rolling and soon it's massive, unstoppable, thundering down the hill. Small wins are those first pushes. They feel small, but they're the only way to get the snowball moving. Wait for the giant push, and the snowball never moves. And let's address resistance. Your brain will tell you, this is too small to matter. That's the lie. Everything big is built from small. A book is written 1 word at a time. A marathon is run 1 step at a time. A fortune is built $1 at a time. Ignore the lie. Celebrate the small. Stack them, and watch them grow into the extraordinary. Small wins also build resilience. On tough days, when big goals feel impossible, you can still snag a win. That keeps your momentum alive when others stall. Think of a builder laying 1 brick even in the rain. Progress slows, yes, but the wall still rises. That's the power of stacking small wins. No day is wasted. So tomorrow, chase victories you can't miss. 1 glass of water, 1 phone call, 1 page written. Stack them daily. They'll grow into a wave that carries you forward, proving again and again that greatness isn't built in leaps, but in layers. And you are capable of laying those layers every single day. Habits don't just change what you do, they change who you believe you are. At first, it's about actions. Wake up earlier, plan your day, move your body, finish tasks. But beneath every action lies something deeper. Identity. If you don't shift the way you see yourself, the habits will always feel like chores, like tasks you're forcing. But when you align them with your identity, they stop being things you do and become who you are. That's when the rewiring locks in for good. Think about it. Anyone can force themselves to wake up at 5 a.m. for a few days. But unless you see yourself as the kind of person who values mornings, it won't stick. Anyone can read a book or 2. But unless you see yourself as a learner, you'll drift back to passive consumption. Identity is the anchor. Without it, habits slip away. With it, habits fuse to you like second nature. The problem most people face is they try to change their lives by sheer willpower alone. They attack the surface, behaviors, without touching the roots, identity. That's why it feels like swimming upstream. Willpower runs out. But identity? Identity is infinite. When you shift the story, you tell yourself about who you are. Every action aligns effortlessly. Here's the shift you need. Stop saying, I want to do this habit. Start saying, I am this kind of person. Don't say, I want to run. Say, I am a runner. Don't say, I should eat healthy. Say, I am someone who fuels my body with respect. Don't say, I should be more disciplined. Say, I am disciplined. Identity statements train your brain to expect consistency, and your actions rise to match them. Psychology backs this up. Cognitive dissonance theory shows that when your actions and identity clash, you feel tension. You'll either quit the habit or change your identity. The most powerful approach is to align identity first. If you see yourself as disciplined, skipping the workout feels unnatural. If you see yourself as lazy, the workout feels forced. Align the story, and the actions follow. Here's a scenario. Two people quit smoking. One says, "I'm trying to quit." The other says, "I don't smoke." Both may resist cigarettes at first, but over time, the second person, the one with the identity shift, has far greater success. Why? Because their actions flow from who they believe they are, not from what they're forcing themselves to resist. Now let's bring this to you. Every habit we've covered, waking with purpose, planning, self-talk, action, finishing, protecting energy, feeding your mind, moving, reflecting, staying consistent, stacking wins. Each of these is not just a behavior. It's a reflection of who you are choosing to be. You are the kind of person who respects mornings, the kind of person who plans their time, the kind of person who guards their energy, the kind of person who grows daily. You're not dabbling. You're transforming identity. Practical tool. Write I am statements tied to your habits. For example, I am someone who finishes what I start. I am someone who chooses growth over comfort. I am someone who protects my focus fiercely. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. Read them daily. Speak them out loud. Let them rewire the way you see yourself. Over time, you won't just do these habits. You'll embody them. Here's another metaphor. Imagine a tree. Habits are the branches and leaves, the visible actions. Identity is the root system. If the roots are weak, branches wither. But if the roots are strong, the tree flourishes season after season. Strengthen your roots, your identity, and the branches will naturally thrive. Resistance will show up. Old stories will creep in. I'm not disciplined. I'm not good with time. I always quit. These are not truths. They're outdated scripts you've repeated so often. They feel real. But identity is not fixed. You can rewrite the script today. Every habit you practice is evidence. Stack enough evidence, and the old identity collapses under the weight of the new one. And here's the deeper beauty. Identity-driven habits don't just transform you. They transform how others see you. When people notice you follow through, protect your energy, and show up consistently, they begin to trust you, rely on you, and respect you. Your reputation shifts. Your opportunities expand. Identity change isn't only internal. It radiates outward into the way the world treats you. So tomorrow, stop asking, "What habits should I do?" Start asking, "Who do I want to be?" Then align every action as a vote for that identity. Because the habits will fade if they're just actions. But if they're who you are, they'll last a lifetime. All the threads now come together. The mornings shaped with purpose. The daily planning that clears chaos. The self-talk that lifts instead of drags. The action that beats hesitation. The discipline to finish. The boundaries that guard your energy. The daily learning that feeds your mind. The movement that regulates emotions. The reflection that closes each day. The consistency that locks habits into place. The stacking of small wins. The building of identity. These aren't separate practices. They weave into one rewired life. Picture yourself months from now. You wake up with clarity instead of dread. You know where your day is going before the world tries to hijack it. Your inner voice cheers you forward instead of tearing you down. Hesitation shows up, but you move anyway. Tasks don't pile up unfinished. They close, one by one, building confidence. You say no without guilt, protecting the energy that fuels growth. You feed your mind with daily insights, and suddenly, you notice your perspective widening, your conversations deepening, your ideas sharpening. When stress builds, you move, and emotions reset. At night, you reflect, release, and rest with peace. And day after day, you repeat, not perfectly, but consistently. Small wins stack, identity shifts. You don't just practice habits. You are the kind of person who lives them. That's the rewired life. It's not louder. It's not flashier. It's steadier, sharper, freer. It's built from small daily decisions that add up to something massive. Now, let's anchor this vision with identity reinforcement. You are no longer someone trying to get their life together. That's the old narrative. You are someone who is disciplined, who follows through, who grows, who respects themselves enough to live with clarity. Every day you live this way. You strengthen that identity. Every slip you recover from, you prove resilience. This isn't about perfection. It's about direction. You are walking forward, and the path is becoming your new normal. Here's a metaphor to seal it in. Imagine your life as a river. For years it flowed in one direction. Patterns of distraction, hesitation, negative self-talk. Those grooves in the riverbed felt permanent. But with each habit you've applied, you've been digging a new channel. At first, the water barely trickles that way. It feels awkward, unnatural. But over time, the flow strengthens, the old channel dries up, the new path becomes the default. That's what you're doing, redirecting the current of your life toward growth, strength, and clarity. And remember, the rewired life isn't distant. It's not someday. It's today. Every action you take right now, after this very sentence, is either reinforcing the old channel or carving the new. That choice is always in your hands. No one else can live it for you. No one else can protect your energy, feed your mind, move your body, or reflect for you. This is your responsibility, but also your freedom. So, as you step forward, carry this truth. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to feel ready. You already have the tools. You already know the path. All that's left is to live it, today, tomorrow, and the day after, until it's no longer effort. It's simply who you are. Slow down for a moment. Breathe. You've just traveled through a journey of rewiring, step by step, habit by habit, and maybe your mind feels full. Maybe your heart feels restless. That's good. It means something inside you is stirring, waking up, ready to move. Let's soften the pace here. You don't need to master all 10 habits overnight. You don't need to perform perfectly from day one. What matters is momentum. Choose one habit that resonated most, just one, and live it today. Wake with purpose, or plan before chaos hits, or close your day with reflection. Any one of them, lived fully, begins to shift the river. Because transformation is not about pressure, it's about practice. It's about giving yourself the grace to stumble, the courage to return, and the persistence to continue. You are not broken. You are in progress. And progress, no matter how small, is victory. Picture yourself months from now. You look back and realize the old fog has lifted. You speak with more confidence. You act with more clarity. You rest with more peace. People around you notice the difference. But most importantly, you notice it. You carry yourself differently. You trust yourself more deeply. And all of it was built by the habits you've chosen to live, one day at a time. So as this journey closes, let one truth echo. You are not waiting for change. You are creating it. With every morning, every action, every reflection, you are rewiring your life into one of strength, clarity, and growth. Step forward. Live it. The rewired life is already yours.